My name is Kirk Duckwall. I'm a real estate agent and broker here in the Twin Cities and licensed in Western Wisconsin as well. I've been doing this for 12 years. I've been involved with real estate education now for over 6 years. Been teaching classes for the last, I think, 4. I helped author the Smart Home Buyer and the Smart Seller book, as well as we do a weekly radio show and podcast. We're going to have information on that. If people like this class and you really want to dive in and geek out on real estate, there's some great videos that we have from our podcast, as well as great short videos that we have just diving in a little deeper, allowing you to geek out on those subjects that you really like. Prior to real estate, which seems like that's been almost my life. Now, prior to real estate, I used to build and rehab houses. I loved seeing and looking at the different possibilities with homes, learning about the houses. I just hated working on them. So I learned a ton about finding potential issues. And it was that experience and my experience doing real estate. I go out and see about 400 homes a year in person that led me to want to bring and do a class and bring this information forward that I think is going to be hopefully highly valuable to people joining us.
Hey everyone, I'm Ben Greilanger. I've been a realtor since 2016. And before that, I got into handyman work and started my own handyman business for several years before that. And I really had a passion for homes, all things homes and construction. Definitely kind of was like Kirk, kind of getting tired of the grind of it. So I decided to kind of bring that knowledge into the real estate realm, and it's been just really fun and exciting to help educate people about their homes and buying process, selling process. It's been really fun over the past couple of years. Excited to help you learn more about it.
And we usually have Chad or Eric with us. They weren't able to join us this evening. So we're going to be covering for their portions regarding some of the information you want when shopping mortgages. But those are absolutely phenomenal people as far as understanding any of the first-time home buyer programs that are out there. And there are some great incentives out there right now. So we will have their contact information as well for questions regarding that. But feel free, if you do have lending questions, you can hit us up with those, as we may be able to answer quite a few of them. Okay. Let's see. I think you started.
At the nuts and bolts of buying, there's basically 2 ways to buy a home: the shotgun approach, the winging it approach, and the surgical approach, the approach with a plan. So obviously one usually ends more positively than the other.
Let me guess, the shotgun approach.
Yes, that is usually never ends well. So yeah, a shotgun approach is just going out there, seeing houses. You don't even know what you can afford. You have no plan. Maybe you have to sell a house as well, and it's destined for failure. So you want to have a plan, and that's where that surgical approach comes in. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be less anxious during the buying process. You're going to know what you're going for, what type of home you're wanting to buy. And it's just going to be a much more satisfying process because it's a big decision that you're getting into, that you want to know what you're doing and have a plan.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times that shotgun approach, and maybe people out there have known somebody who's done this. They've gone out and they looked a year ago, looked at 30 homes, couldn't figure anything out. That's not fun. Right? You want to plan. And honestly, I want to thank everybody that's joining us tonight, because you're already on the path to having a good plan in place. Learn, educate. This is one of the biggest financial decisions most people ever make. The more knowledge that you can have, the more confident that you're going to be, the more that you're going to know what's a good buy and who's working in your favor. What's really the honesty that's coming through from an agent or a loan officer, versus just the salesy tactics that you see a lot of people use. So when you do the surgical approach, it's going to end really in one way, and that's you're confident that you picked a home that you like because it met the priority checklist that you did and figured out and you learned about. And it also, your agent and your loan officer that you chose was working for you. because you're going to know the process and how, and you're going to be involved in that process throughout versus just sitting back and hoping somebody is doing it in your interest. They're going to be interactive with you.
And you want to build your team.
Yes.
You know, realtor, loan officer, title, those are people that are going to be working with you and for you. So you want to build your team to have that plan for success.
This is supposed to be a fun and exciting process, and it can be by doing that planning up front. Yes, it is exciting to shop for a home, and it's really easy to pull out an app, you know, and start searching online. But without that plan ahead of time, that process, which seems innocent to begin with, ends up being these very big decisions starting off on the wrong foot. So the first thing is to make sure you're not in a rush when you're out there and starting this process. That's how you set yourself up for success. Yes. Something interesting here I got from Zillow. There are a lot of reasons I love Zillow, a lot of reasons that I don't necessarily love Zillow, but they do some great studies. And they did this study of the top 5 things buyers wish they would have done differently. And it starts out with they wish they would have used different online resources. I kind of find that amusing. They wish they would have chosen a different community to live in. They wish they would have chosen a different house. That's a pretty big mistake. They wish they would have moved into their home faster. That's one I hear a lot. Wow, that process was a lot easier and less stressful than I thought or I heard about from family members. Well, if they do it right, yeah, that's the way it should go. And they wish they would have started the process way earlier. If you think that you start shopping for a home 2 to 3 months before you're ready to buy, no, you really want to start that process a good 6 months to a year out of starting to talk to people, building that team. Because being in a rush, it ends up with the top 5 mistakes. And we can see those from the frustrations that are expressed from the Zillow study, which is not using the right searching tools. That's one of the top mistakes. Not buying, not using the priority checklist, not knowing what style of home works for you. That is so important. That'd be like going out blindfolded into a car lot and like, I like this one, right? You have ideas of what's going to work for your needs, and that does directly relate to styles. And then not having the appropriate financing set up. That's a tough one. You know, somebody just goes off, they think they're doing the right thing. They start talking to their bank just pushes a loan down their throat, and they think they're approved to go out and buy. And they may very well not be approved for what they're actually shopping for. We'll get more into that in a second. And then the worst, overpaying for a house.
Yeah, who wants to overpay for a house?
I think a lot of people that bought homes this summer. Oh, it was a tough one. You had to shop right. You had to do and look in the right places, but there were a lot of people out there overpaying. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so you know, if you don't have much time left in your lease, don't play the lease roulette game. Don't just be like, oh, I'm going to sign another year lease. Get on a 6-month or a month-to-month. That lease roulette game is not something you want to do. A month-to-month, yeah, you'll pay a little bit more, but when you can leverage the market in the good times of year versus the bad times of year, you can put yourself in a really good position to save a lot of money on your purchase. All right, I'm going to sit down.
Take a break. All right, so now, you know, basic question is, who should you see first and who represents you in the buying process? You know, the short answer of, you know, who should you see first? It theoretically should be your loan officer and a realtor at the same time. Because at the end of the day, like we said, you know, you're building your team, and your loan officer and your realtor are going to work and communicate, you know, quite frequently about, you know, what you're looking for and what type of home works for your financial situation. So, you know, a loan officer is going to be important to, you know, figuring out your financial situation, which loan works best for your goals, and that in turn gets communicated to your realtor, who then can kind of help direct and guide you to the homes that fit that mortgage that you're, you know, pre-approved for. Because, you know, a lot of people don't know that not every home on the market qualifies for every type of mortgage. So if you're in a certain type of, you know, financing situation, you might not be able to afford or be able to, you know, buy a certain type of property, like a, FHA, you might not be able to get a townhome or a condo or a fixer-upper. So those are the type of things where your loan officer and your realtor really need to be on the same page with you to really help make sure you're not in a situation where you're looking at things that you can't even buy. So yeah, it's really important to talk to your loan officer early, start the process early. You have nothing to lose. You have everything to gain because it doesn't cost you anything, and it's going to help, they can help steer, direct you to maybe improving certain elements of your financial window of, credit score or down payment, certain things that maybe you need a couple more months to get in a really better position to be buying.
I want to jump in real quick. You brought up a great point about, loans not qualifying for certain homes. And by no means are we saying that not every FHA loan doesn't cover every townhome. It's certain townhomes that are classified certain ways with certain approvals. Also, there's what's known as conditional requirements, and different lenders may have different conditional requirements, whether that's conventional. A lot of credit unions may have conditional underwriting overlays. These are all things that are really important to know if your lender has that, or what lenders may not have that roadblock. So who you get pre-approved with, who you're using there, it's so important. And if you didn't know that information, you wouldn't know to look for that. So
yeah, and having that communication level with a loan officer who's available to get that pre-approval for you very quickly is so important when you're out shopping.
Okay.
Question?
Can we unmute? Unmute.
Going on to the, how does a buyer's agent or realtor represent the buyer? That's an important role for a realtor because a buyer's agent is representing the buyer. You want somebody who's in your corner fighting for you and your financial and home decisions. Some people say, "Oh, I'll just go to the selling agent, and they'll give me a deal." It's at the end of the day, that seller's agent is working for the seller, and you're second in line. So you want somebody independent in the transaction to be fighting for you. What does a good buyer's agent do? A good buyer's agent is not just a car salesman. They're not, a good agent's not going to just say, "Oh yeah, you should buy this one. It looks good." Because a good agent is going to know that this is a big decision, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars, and this is your home. It's not just a car that they're just trying to sell you. So a good agent's going to help point out red flags within the home, big maintenance issues that maybe are things that you might not see. If there's water intrusion, the age of the roof, the siding, those types of things. And a good agent's going to listen to you and try to really understand what your goals are, in your buying process. And they might suggest, different strategies to get there that maybe you haven't thought of.
you're going to be listening instead of selling. Leah or Leah, I saw your hand up earlier. I didn't know. Do you have a question? I'll let Carly. Yes, no, okay. Again, if you do have questions, just let us know. I believe you can unmute yourselves to ask those. Otherwise, type them into the chat boxes for Facebook Live or in Zoom. For anybody, I said 5 minutes. Anybody who's just joining us or wasn't at the beginning, we put a link in. We need you to fill out that information so we can get you the right tools and right links, the right resources for your home search, as well as to send you a copy of the Smart Home Buyer book and the gift bag full of goodies. All right. What loan works for you? Okay, so there is no best loan. Everybody's circumstances and situations are individual. However, lenders don't necessarily, like the ones who spend a lot of money on advertising, don't necessarily push that avenue, right? That they're going to try, today's conventional rate or FHA rate is this, we have this loan, this first-time home buyer program, it's perfect. you really want to make sure you go through and look at all your loan options with that good loan officer. Now we're going to kind of break down the different types, but again, there really is no one best one that works for everybody. So first off, you have conventional loans. Conventional loans, some people think you need 20% down to get this type of loan. That is not the case. It can be as little as 3% down. However, typically you want to have a credit score that's sitting in the high 6s or low 7s for it to usually make the best sense. Again, not always the case, but a conventional loan works better for that. Also, for somebody who's looking for that fixer-upper property, there tends to be less of those conditional requirements than FHA. Now, FHA is not a first-time home buyer loan. People can buy, it could be their third house that they're going on to, moving into, and they can use an FHA loan. It's Federal Housing Administration loan that is insuring that loan product. This is as little as 3.5% down, and this works for people usually with those credit scores more in the low to mid 6s, 640-ish on up range. Now, there is also VA loans, which are for veterans. If you're a veteran out there, this is a great one. I'm a veteran myself. There really isn't a better loan if you've gone through service and can get a VA loan. So you want to definitely look at that if that's your situation. Now, there are some subcategories like MHFA. This is Minnesota Housing, and they will provide grants to make the down payment even lower. And that can get you to as little as $1,000 down for that MHFA. And that can be for conventional MHFA or FHA MHFA. There are other products known as Home Ready and Home Possible. When I mentioned the 3% down conventional, that's typically these two programs. Now, sometimes there may be income restrictions depending on what areas you're looking in. So again, you really want to go over this with your loan officer. And some of those like Home Ready and MHFA, they will have some higher credit score requirements than that minimum 640 sometimes that we talked about. Not always the case. Again, everybody's individual. There's another one, Borrower Smart program. And then finally, Borrower Smart, I believe, yeah, that's another 3% down, similar to the Home Ready, Home Possible. There's also portfolio loans. This is great for a person who's self-employed that maybe isn't getting a 1099, more of a W-2 kind of employee. These can be a great product to look at, and they don't necessarily have high interest rates involved with them. By portfolio, what that basically means is the bank is holding the loan. It's not a loan that's getting sold to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac requirements. Once you go through all these options with your loan officer, figure out what is the right loan for you, make sure you write that down, that information, because you're going to want to know it. You're going to want to remember it. Your realtor is probably not going to remember every loan breakdown for every client that they have. And so you want to have that information. If you're a 3.5% down FHA loan, you want to know that. If they're needing 45 days for a closing, you're going to want to know that. You don't want that information to be unknown because that may cause delays in you being able to get an offer out. So know your down payment, know your interest rate. That's really important, at least where rates roughly are. One of the tools that we have that we're going to send out has a mortgage calculator in it. I'm going to text that to everybody in the morning. But that's going to have a great mortgage calculator in there.
Often, I don't know if you've seen it in the news, but there was a big announcement of a huge down payment assistance grant program that's been it's going to be rolling out in January of next year. $7 million up to $15,000 in down payment assistance if you buy a home in St. Paul or Minneapolis, and that is forgiven in 5 years if you stay in the home. There are other income restrictions and other things for it, but it can be a nice tool for that first-time home buyer if you're looking in St. Paul or Minneapolis.
Now, a word to the wise out there. These down payment assistance programs can be great, and they can be right for certain people in certain situations. Going back to that, each loan is individual. However, just because something's being offered, you have to weigh that against the interest rate that they're giving as well. You know, maybe you are in a better down payment situation and you can actually save a lot more money by going that route because it's a significantly lower interest rate. So again, everybody's individual. Look at every program, look at your loan options and what makes sense for you. Okay. Also, it's really important when you start this process, you want to make sure you're really getting a full pre-approval from your loan officer. They should be asking you for your bank statements, your pay stubs, your taxes. This is important because this is what is going to get you that approval letter that you need, not just the fast slap. Oh, here you go. Here's that pre-qual letter because you filled out an application. No, listing agents want to see real pre-approvals that are solid. So going with those local reputable lenders, not necessarily the online ones that hand out pre-qual letters like they're candy, is important because it may affect how likely you are to get your offer accepted versus not accepted. I have a client recently who did not believe me on this until it happened to them a few times, and they understood then the importance of getting a real pre-approval. Okay, normally in a live class, I'll say, hey, who would like to save $100,000 on their mortgage? And by a show of hands, most people will raise their hand. So I'm just going to assume that most people would raise their hand in that situation because, yeah, you can save $100,000 on your mortgage, and it's not that hard. First, it goes all back to taking that time, coming up with a plan, figuring out what loan works for you. Term. If you can shorten your loan, you can save a ton of interest. If you can go to a 20-year loan or a 15-year loan, it may only raise your payment by a couple $100, but if you're in a situation where you can do that, on my last mortgage, I went from a 30 to a 20. My payment went up by about $200. I was slated to save $123,000 in interest had I stayed that whole period of time. Now, I ended up only staying 7 years, but I still saved a lot of interest and paid down my mortgage significantly during that period of time. So you could save a ton of money by shortening your term. The down payment amount is important as it may adjust your interest rate, the interest rate that you get. And right now, with rates low, the little shifts make more and more of a difference than because now you're shearing off big chunks potentially if you can get that as low as possible. So slightly higher down payment might be able to help you out. How to deal with mortgage insurance. This may or may not be a deal for the loan that you're shopping with, but if you can eliminate mortgage insurance and do a single premium one-time buyout, you could save thousands and thousands of dollars in mortgage insurance fees. And so that's something you definitely want to talk to your loan officer about. Closing costs, how you're going to deal with those. Are those something that we're going to wrap into the loan? We'll talk about that a little bit later. Or is this something that you're doing the pay out of pocket up front, or what's called lender paid closing costs? People jump right away to rate when shopping out there, and that is the last place you want to get when shopping for a loan. I mean, it's important, but there's other steps to figure out before you go to rate. But people like to play off of people's emotions and misunderstandings about the mortgage market. And so they know that interest rate is a feeling spot, that they can get them and like, ooh, they have low rates. Well, again, everybody's an individual. Right here, I have Fannie Mae's interest rate. It's a loan level pricing adjustment matrix showing, and anybody can look this up. Again, Fannie Mae loan level pricing adjustment matrix. It shows you by your credit score how much your interest rate gets adjusted, depending on what type of property purchase it is. If it's a refinance versus a purchase, if it's a multi-family versus a single family versus a condominium or a townhouse, how that adjusts it, how much your down payment is, and how much that adjusts your interest rate. So clearly, there's a lot of factors that go into how your interest rate is determined. So you want to make sure that you're shopping, one, down payment, that you know where you are on that. term, where you're at with the term that you're going to go with, how you're dealing with mortgage insurance, and then how you're dealing with closing costs. Then you get to interest rate. If you're picking up the phone and saying, hey, what's your rate today? Reverse of where you want to be with that. You want to make sure you know those other pieces to figure out really what is your rate, or you could be setting yourself up for some disappointment as you start actually getting out there and getting quoted. Let's see. Yeah, beware of clickbait. Again, little ads that pop up, low rates, fill out an app. They're selling people on ridiculously low interest rates that probably don't exist for your circumstance. What do I mean by that? Is you'll see many asterisks, and they'll need things like 25% down, paying additional costs out of pocket to buy the interest rate down, that you are purchasing a single family home and you have pristine credit and you have no debt. That's what that clickbait is going after, right? Most people aren't in that scenario. So again, talk with a lender to figure out what is yours. I know we've been spending a lot of time on the loan stuff. We're gonna hopefully, let's see here. Yeah, closing costs. We'll hit on that real quick, getting into calculating your payment, and then get on the fun stuff about house shopping. But this is really important because you can save a lot of money here. Okay, closing costs. This is important as to, did we lose our screen?
No, we just don't have one for closing costs.
No, it's there. I think that's a blank slide.
But if we go forward,
We already did that.
Maybe just keep it blank then.
Or go forward. There we go.
Back
All
on
right,
track.
Back on track. Technical difficulties. All right, closing costs. There's a lot of myths about who pays closing costs. No matter what you've heard, no matter what your parents have told you, friends have told you, coworkers have told you, I want you to wipe that clean from your head. You, as the buyer, always pay closing costs. Now, I'm going to walk through why this is. First of all, what are closing costs? It's the buyer's homeowner's insurance. It's the buyer's loan origination fee. It's the buyer's discount points, and if they're buying down interest rate, it's the buyer's title insurance, and it's the buyer's property taxes. Now, who do you think would be responsible for those, right? The buyer. Now, why do people say, well, I got the seller to pay them? Well, there's this form out there that says seller contributions towards buyer closing costs. It's probably the most deceptive form that we have in the state of Minnesota because seller is not contributing anything. We're artificially inflating the price of the property to build the closing costs in. So I'm going to give you just a real quick breakdown of why this is and how this works. Let's say you have a property out there for $97,000. It's a condo, right? It's a miracle purchase. You never will actually find it. $97,000. And you have $3,000 in closing costs. Well, what we'll do is we'll say, okay, we're going to do a $100,000 offer with 3% or $3,000 towards buyer's closing costs that the seller is going to quote unquote pay. But at the end of the day, the seller only gets the $97,000. Or you could just offer $97,000 and pay the $3,000 cash out of pocket, and the seller still nets $97,000. Now, someone out there is probably thinking, well, no, I want to offer $97,000 and get the seller to pay my closing costs. Guess what? Math works the same way. Now you're just offering them 94, right? And you could just offer them the 94 and pay the $3K out of pocket. I can work this all the way down to zero. No matter what, you're artificially inflating that price to roll the closing costs in. Now, I'm not bringing this news to people like, oh, he's not representing us and trying to get every dollar off. Why do these other people say the seller's paying it? I'm telling you the truth about it and how sellers see it and how that is important, especially if you're in a multiple offer situation, that you need to understand what the seller is seeing as far as your total offer, and that you do have options in different ways of doing that, whether it's financing it in, lender paid, or you paying cash out of pocket. Now, if you understand that pretty simple math problem that there with the 100,000, 3%, 97 net, you now understand something, that 95% of realtors and loan officers either are unwilling to explain to their clients because they know the truth behind it, or they don't understand it themselves. But you have the knowledge with that information to make you a more powerful consumer, to know the end math as you're making offers and you're rolling closing costs in, if that's how you're going after your loan. Okay, enough with that. Calculating your payment. So what goes into your payment? It's homeowner's insurance, it's property taxes, it's principal, it's interest. We have a little slide up there. This is from our app, and we basically, every property that you pull up on this app, you will see, you can click on the property and you can scroll down and see what the payment would be depending on your situation, where you enter in that down payment that you're doing, that interest rate that your loan officer quoted you. It automatically puts the property taxes in there. If you're doing mortgage insurance versus single premium, you can take mortgage insurance in and out of there. It's super slick. It's great as you're out and about shopping. Again, we're going to send everybody a link to that app. I'll text it out to everybody as well as it'll be in the email. Okay. This is one of the most important things. If you're going to take anything out of this class, this is going to help your home search more than anything. And that's to take the time to do the home buyer priority checklist. This isn't for us or the realtors that you end up picking. It's for you. It's going to save you a ton of stress. It's going to save you a ton of fights. It's going to save you a ton of time when you're out and about. And that's the home buyer priority checklist. This is also part of the book, so you'll have that when we get that out to you. But the home buyer priority checklist, it's basically price, size, condition, location, neighborhood, and rating 1 through 5. So you only can use each number once. What is most important to you to least important to you? This is it could be fun because it's like, well, gosh, aren't all of these important? You really have to knock through this. And if you are with a significant other, I'm sorry, we call this the fight starter. But the good news is, if you have this fight once, you'll figure it out, you'll get through it, and you're going to find a ton of homes that you really like. It's the people that don't do this that go out and look at 30 homes and never find something. This is people that don't do this that don't find a home that works for them. It's people who don't do this that end up with those top 5 Zillow things that they were saying as to, buying a house in the wrong community, buying the wrong home, those kind of things. So doing this is going to save you a ton of time, a ton of stress. The key to it is you rank them 1 through 5, and as you search, you try to always make sure your top 2 most important things are covered in the homes that you're looking at. Because it's real easy to say, well, there aren't any homes where I'm looking right now, so I'm going to look over here, even though over here isn't where you want to be. And so instead, you end up looking at that home, being like, wow, that's perfect, except for it's not where I want to be. In the meantime, you're deciding not to go buy that house when there was another home that maybe one of those other things you could have been more flexible on had you figured that out ahead of time. And we call this looking at the wrong homes while the right homes are selling. It's a lot of fun to go out and look at 5 properties and like 3 or 4 of them. It's not a lot of fun to go out and look at 5 properties every time and not liking any of them. It's very stressful. So taking that time, I do have another quick little Zillow study here, and it basically says, buyers, had they done things differently, or what was it that they didn't expect? They ended up buying number 5. They ended up buying a house that was in worse condition than originally planned. Well, that's in the priority checklist. Condition, how important is it to you? It's farther from work or school than they had originally planned. There's the location. Increased commute time, that falls under location as well, was smaller than originally planned. That fits into how important is size. and then get back to condition, didn't have desired finishes. So take the time to do that checklist. Here is the real fun part about the fight started up. You do yours, your significant other does theirs, you come together, and if you're not perfectly aligned, you need to get perfectly aligned and talk through that. It's tough, but it's important. The reason being is if one person's priorities are off by one, you may go out and look at a house that's in their significant other's perfect location, but it's not in yours. And now it's a no-go, looking at the wrong home or the right home selling. Now they're getting frustrated at you for not liking the house, or vice versa, right? Going and looking at a home, you love it, but they don't. Now you're frustrated with them because they don't like the house. You figure it out ahead of time, you're going to solve that. I had a couple that we went out. First time St. Louis Park, looked at a few homes. And I call them exploratory showings because exploratory showings, it's to learn what's important to you. What is it that you want? It's going out and looking at homes with no expectation whatsoever to buy them. It's checking out styles, it's checking out areas, it's checking out price points and condition. So I went out on exploratory set number 1 in St. Louis Park. They really wanted to be in St. Louis Park. They thought every house that we looked at was a little more trashy than they wanted as far as condition. So that was that set. I said, hey, have you guys done the priority checklist yet? No, we'll get to it. So we go out the next time. And again, we look at some homes, not the right size, condition was a problem again. Asked them again, did you guys do the priority checklist? No, we'll get to it. I said, you guys really got to get that knocked out. They knocked it out, and they called me up, and you could kind of hear the joy in their voice, like, okay, we got it. We're changing from St. Louis Park. Now we're going to Bloomington. And instead of, after looking at 10 different houses, we end up going to Bloomington, looked at 3, and they liked 2 of them. Ended up getting a great buy on an estate sale. But doing that checklist is what set everything. Yeah, I mean, let's see. The one of the things I mentioned is layout in that priority checklist. Can you go back a slide, Charlie? Or maybe 2. I have a couple different layouts up there. I have a 2-level split and a story and a half, and then a rambler. And then I don't know how that picture of the closet room thing. No, that has to do with floor plans and making sure that you're reading the specs as you're looking through the house, the spec it out before you check it out piece. And you know, that the person in that photo on the lower right, that agent had said that's a great guest bedroom, and then you get there and it's like just an oversized closet. But layout's important because it's as important if you were to go out and you wanted to go look at minivans, but instead you're test driving pickup trucks. If you really think about what it is that you want, is a story and a half going to work for you if it has low headroom upstairs and you're tall and it's, you know, the neck bender? Or is a split level going to work for you if you you know, don't want to be going up and down stairs all the time and coming in from the garage? You know, is a split level going to work for you if you need 3 bedrooms upstairs and a lot of them are 2 up, 2 down? Knowing what works for you and your family and your needs is important. So doing those exploratory sets, figuring out layouts, I have found is one of the most important things that people have the least understanding of as they get into this, how different layouts can be from house to house to house. Okay, online searching. By the way, if anybody has any questions, please let us know. Again, click on that link if you haven't filled that out to get all the different links to the tools that we're going to talk about. Okay, you can see I have Zillow and Trulia crossed out as for searching tools. It's not that Zillow doesn't serve a purpose, but when it comes to home searching, you want to have the most accurate information possible. You'll be able to see the differences between the links that we're going to send you and the Zillow's, Trulia's, Realtors.com of the world if you just compare for yourself. On average, you have about a 30%, what we call third-party marketing-based sites. They have about a 30% inaccuracy rating as to the information that's on there. So you want to make sure you're using the accurate tools. Now, I do like Zillow for some of the different history and tax history that they have on there. And also the schools reviews and past sales and stuff as well. I have the link for HomeSpotter. That's we're going to send you the information to access that. There's also some other great websites. If you want to learn about neighborhoods, if you're shopping in Minneapolis and St. Paul, different neighborhoods, that's mncompass.com, .org. I'm sorry, that's tons of great neighborhood information, links, the length of residency, percentage of rentals, and etc. Minneapolis Association of Realtors to track housing stats, what's happening within the market in different neighborhoods and or suburbs. Lots of great information there as well. All right, I'm going to sit down again.
A lot of good information there. So yeah, so understanding the neighborhood you're targeting, is very important. On your priority checklist, you've got that figured out. So hopefully you're working with your agent and you're getting listings now sent to you. So it's important how to look at these listings, when they're sent to you, and how to really analyze them. We like the phrase, spec it out before you check it out, because you can really get a lot of information from that MLS listing that you can decide if it's a good place to go look at, or if it's something that you could probably pass on just by looking at the MLS listing. So the example, that photo on the right, it's a cute house there. You think, oh yeah, it's got a nice little yard, and then you look at the satellite view. So you can cross between the two. You see that it's right on the right there. It's a tiny little triangle property, no garage, right on a busy road and right near the light rail. It's kind of deceiving when you look at a photo. It's it can look really nice.
Right at the corner of 38 and Snelling.
Yeah, right off Hiawatha to the east there. Some people like that area, but if you're looking for a very quiet neighborhood, that might not be the best location. So it's important to.
Or the great elevators, railroad tracks, apartment buildings.
So yeah, it's like you pop into the satellite view. Google is unbelievable with the satellite view, so you can really take a bird's eye view of the location and really get that image that the MLS description is maybe not going to tell you. Also you can pop in to do the street view. You can check crime maps. Different police departments will have their online crime maps and crime databases for different neighborhoods that you can check.
CommunityCrimeMap.com.
CommunityCrimeMap.com. Another thing is to, a good agent's going to give you accurate room dimensions and what types of rooms are in the home. If a formal dining room is very important to you, there's certain types of homes that might not be good fits because they don't have formal dining rooms. Mid-century ramblers usually don't have a formal dining room. So there's certain type of things that you can weed properties out before even going to look at them. And so that's what we call speccing it out before you check it out. That's based on your priority checklist.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is the first thing you should be doing when you're searching for a home. I know probably a lot of you out there have started and you've been on, on certain apps, and you probably boom, picture, and then you look at that and say, wow, this house is pretty. Hey, look, this is a great house, right? The problem is pictures tell 1,000 lies. The room dimensions, the satellite view, the Google Street View, that doesn't really lie, right? Because the agent is trying to sell you on a story that they're telling with those photos. Now, if it's a bad agent and they take cruddy photos, it's going to send this picture of this house is small, or this house is junky, right? And it doesn't look good. So what I have up here in the slide, Carly, you can put there, perfect. So 2 different houses. The photos on the left were from one agent, and then the photos from the right, another agent. So the one on the left sat on the market for 90 days. The top left, upper left-hand corner, sat on the market for 90 days and expired. Listing never sold. Yeah. The one on the right, by the way, no work was done. It was just staged and different pictures taken with a professional photographer. The other one sold almost immediately, right? So you can see, but same house, nothing changed.
Same layout, same.
And we'll get into a little bit more about that in deal hunting, how you can score some deals with those bad photos. And then the bottom one, that's just showing how different room sizes can feel, or how dark a room can feel, depending on what camera lens, what flash are they using.
Yeah, usually you want to be very careful when looking at photos, and usually when I'm looking at photos on the MLS, I'm looking at, okay, are there cracked windows? You can kind of sometimes see the age of the furnace. Is it a high efficiency furnace? Those type of things that I definitely like to look at, even before I go physically see a property.
I like using it to figure out the layout.
Yeah.
Right. Look at the room and what's beyond. Right. Yeah. What am I seeing through the windows? Is this a second floor room that I'm in? Yeah. There's a hallway. Oh, I see the bathroom there. And then the next picture of the bedroom. Oh, I see that same bathroom. You start to picture the layout of that house before you ever get to it. Because how good a kitchen looks or how pretty the home is going to be is not how it's going to be when you're there. One of the biggest mistakes I see first-time home buyers make is falling in love with homes online. Yeah. Wow, this is perfect. This is the best house. I've never seen a client buy the perfect best house that they saw online, because it's that story that's being sold isn't how it is when you're there. The best way you can look at a home is look at it. Hey, it meets our needs. Let's go check this thing out in person. That's the less expectations you have, the more free of misconceptions you're going to have when you walk in the door. All right. Finding the best deals. This is the fun part. Even in a hot market, there are good buys to be had out there. I mentioned in this class in the beginning, there's a lot of people that this summer were overpaying for houses. Well, if you were going through the traditional route and going out with an agent, looking at something and being like, oh, this is great, this is awesome, let's make an offer. Oh, there's 5 offers. Oh, we got to go up, we got to go up, we got to go do this. Yeah, there's a lot of people that get sucked into that game and end up in scenarios where maybe, depending on the evaluation that was done ahead of time, they ended up in a scenario where they paid too much. But if it took the time to analyze the property ahead of time, look to truly see, is it appropriately priced, looking for the ones that the market, in a sense, may have missed, there are always good buys to be had out there in the market. And now that the market's a little slower, that's getting a little easier. So, some tips to find the best deals. Number 1, limited number of photos on the listing. If you can be the better buyer out there and look at a house and do the spec it out piece of it, you don't even need to really look at many of the photos. You're not wasting your agent's time. You're probably saving time, because you're going out and looking at these houses that nobody else is, the ones that don't have the competition, because everybody's like, well, I want to wait for more pictures. I want to wait for better pictures. Be the early bird. Get in the door. There isn't anything wrong with those houses other than the fact that they just don't have a lot of pictures online. Quite often it's a lazy agent or an embarrassed seller who maybe had some extra stuff in there, so the pictures wouldn't look great. But yeah, very rarely do I walk into a home with limited photos and it's like, oh, this is terrible, this is a bad house. No, they're good houses. They just don't have a lot of photos. Another one, dark or otherwise poor quality photos, like I showed in the previous picture. It's not that the house has bad lighting or there's anything wrong with it. It's, again, not professional photography that's being taken. Again, maybe a lazy agent, but that works out to your advantage. Another interesting one is cluttered or empty rooms. Cluttered rooms feel small because there's a lot of stuff in them. Empty rooms feel small because there's nothing to give that room perspective. So those houses tend to sit on the market longer that are in that. A lot of people will jump to short sales and foreclosures as good deals. Short sales, there's nothing short about a short sale. You better be ready to be in for the long haul, as it will take upwards of 6 months to hear back if they're even going to accept your offer. The bank, who's part of the transaction, basically a short sale is when somebody's trying to sell a home for short of what they owe on the mortgage. So now there's a second seller involved, which is the bank. The seller may accept your offer, but the bank may not. And that process takes time, like I say, up to 6 months. I've seen them take as long as 2 years, but typically it's within 6 months. Foreclosures, there aren't many foreclosures out there. They make up only a little bit over 1% of our marketplace now. And the ones that are there tend to need a lot of work. I like to call them pickled flavored cakes because, hey, they look good in the photos. Maybe you don't see any of the problems in the pictures, but when you get there, you see the mildew, you see the furnace that needs to be replaced, the roof that has a leak, all of that. So quite often the foreclosure, once you put the money into it to fix it up, actually would cost you more than just buying a traditional house that's in good condition. I personally really like estate sales and relocation sales. An estate sale is a home that's being sold by, maybe somebody who's moved on to assisted living or moved out of state or just moved on in general. And then their family is selling it. And there's a lot of motivation for those homes to get sold because you have somebody who's no longer living there, able to take care of it. Maybe it's family members that are taking care of it. They don't want to do it. And sometimes they're trying to save every penny so you get that poor photography and all of that. And so it's not getting a lot of showing. One of the best buys that I've seen in recent years was this house over in another home in Bloomington, 2-story house that was in West Bloomington, walkout, and it was under $300K. And for that area, it's just basically unheard of as to that style. But they only had two pictures. One, which was its front picture, or the cover photo, it was of a fireplace with some orange carpet and a whole bunch of boxes in front of the fireplace. Well, guess what was under the orange carpet? Hardwood floors, right? And then the other was just a front picture of the house. So yeah, somebody got a great buy on that. Yeah, so once you kind of figure out what you're looking for, what your priorities for, if you're going to do the deal hunting, whatnot, you're going to want to start setting up some showings.
Yeah, working with a realtor, you can preview any home on the market. There's a scheduling process. If it's an occupied home, you have to sometimes schedule it out of several hours. If it's a vacant home, you usually can, what they call a go and show. You can schedule it and go see it pretty much right away. Definitely some changes with coronavirus and mitigating the spread of that. We're waiting for you to like listings so that we can schedule the showings rather than us just throwing a bunch of showings at you and maybe they aren't even houses that you really want to see. So we want to make sure that these are actually homes that spec out for you before we go see them. Obviously most at homes we ask wearing masks and using hand sanitizer. So kind of the common COVID protocols that we're all kind of getting used to now. When you usually go out on especially an exploratory showing, you want to limit it to about 5 to 6 properties. Anything more than that, it can kind of become a blur for those last couple properties where it's just you kind of get tired and fatigued and you're not really taking in exactly what you're taking in. So yeah, limit it to about 5 properties. There's definitely certain things you even want to wear when you're going on showings. You want to wear comfortable shoes. Shoes that you can slip off quickly when you go into houses, because usually you have to take your shoes off in occupied homes. So it's nice to be able to just slip them on and off as you go in and out. And when you go to a property, it's okay to say no. Don't feel like you have to take in the whole house. If you instantly know when you walk in, it's like, no, that's not going to be not going to be a match. It's okay to say no. All right, we'll move on to the next one. It's it's not a big deal. It's no offense taken, and let's go see homes that you are really fired up and excited about, rather than homes that you thought you were.
Yeah, you want to be vocal, right? You're not offending us or your agent if you say, yeah, this kitchen sucks. We want to know those things. We want to know what it is that you like about a house and what it is that you don't like about a house. You're not offending us. Honestly, I tend to be the one that's like, you see that?
Ooh, what's that?
Right. That, you know, talk about the layouts. Hey, I don't like this entryway. You know, this feels too tight for me. I know I'm not, this stairwell is too steep. Great. Because then we can start going, all right, these houses, these features aren't working. Let's stop test driving this kind of car and maybe focus on this one that's going to meet your needs better, right? It's not about looking at the most homes. It's about looking at the right ones that buyers can feel this need. It's look. Well, if all you're doing is test driving those pickup trucks and you're really looking for that minivan, are you doing the wrong thing?
Yeah.
And this goes back to that shotgun approach. So yeah, don't be afraid to tell your agent no. Don't be afraid to be vocal. Be honest.
Because it helps your agent understand, deeper into how you want to enjoy your home. You want to check the outside. A realtor is going to help kind of guide you and point out certain things that maybe you should be, cognizant of. Cracks in the foundation, grading issues, faulty gutters, those type of things on the outside that are, you can see the age of the AC unit out there. Those type of things that you can really, see if there's any big red flags on it. And sometimes if it's something that you don't want to maintain and do big projects, you might, even before you get in the home, you might say, nope, there's too many issues out here, and all right, we'll move on.
Perfect. Yeah, and one of the things that we use, and it is in the book as well, is our red flag walk around checklist. It tells you what to look at as you're walking around. If you know to look for these things, it's pretty easy to figure out if they may be a problem. So that's something that every showing I'm filling one of these out, because, hey, we can figure out some of these big ticket items ahead of time to see if, is this going to be the right house?
Yeah, it's kind of like a pre-inspection inspection, like a cursory overview.
And we have well, I mean, you were in the handyman side of things. I used to build rehab houses. And so I started building up a little collection of different tools, especially for the rehabs that I would use. And I still love bringing on showings. Moisture meter, this thing has saved my clients, I can't count you how many thousands of dollars in maybe unneeded home inspections, because we found out big time water issues in a basement that the seller did a pretty good job of either covering up or just didn't know about. It's pretty simple. You can touch it to sheetrock or concrete or wood, goes up, touches it, and then lights up if there's a high moisture content in that.
And this tool is called an outlet tester. You plug it into a 3-prong outlet, and you can tell you how it's wired, if it's wired incorrectly or correctly, and it'll help tell you if those GFCI, those little buttons with the test and reset, if they're working correctly. If they trip, that'll tell you if it's functioning correctly.
Honestly, that's one of the cheapest,
like $5,
but yet best tools as a homeowner and a home buyer. You go out and buy them, $5. No matter who you're working with as an agent, this is important because, like FHA loans, they're going to require functioning GFCIs in the kitchen and bathroom. So it's good to have this. Another one that I love, and as a homeowner, great tool to have, it's the laser measure. You just point it, tells you the dimension, how long it is to a wall, but it'll also do square footage. I was out on a showing about a month back. We figured out that the seller had pulled out the home stretcher a little bit and boosted their square footage by 500 square feet.
Oh.
Yes, it wasn't small.
Only 5.
Only 500. No, but I mean, we use that in negotiation because I'm like, no, this ain't right. Something was wrong there.
Did we miss a room?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, as a home buyer, as a homeowner, that's a great tool. This one might be going a little next level, but I love this one, especially wintertime. It's the thermal camera. It help you find those really bad leaky windows, finding, how much insulation, heat loss there is from the outside and things like that, getting a good idea of, how well sealed the home is.
So, one of the first places I like to go when, on showings is, to the basement. Basements are such a critical part of a home, especially, here in Minnesota, everyone's got a basement. And with basements, there's two types of basements. Basements that have had moisture issues, basements that will have moisture issues. So moisture is always the biggest issue with basements. And so you got to be cognizant of, how the grading is working. On the right, it kind of shows the basic idea. You want the outside slope to pitch away from the house to really direct that moisture away from the foundation. Inside, there's things like sump pumps, drain tile systems that can really tell you the story of the water in a basement. I'm always kind of cautious about, finished basements in older homes, because, a lot of times those older homes, if they haven't been retrofitted with those sump pumps and drain tile systems, they weren't designed to be finished like we do now. So you kind of want to be careful with those types of properties to make sure that, it was done right. Foundation cracks and those type of things, it's nice to see the condition of those things, and the mechanicals, the water pipes, all those things.
That picture up there, that's not a wide angle lens. That's the worst foundation I've ever seen in my life. That thing was bowed out like a good 6 inches. You can see it pushing away the electrical panel.
Yeah, that would be a big red flag.
Yes. I don't have a ton on the red flags, but bowing is a big one.
There are stuff, obviously with older foundations, sometimes you get cracks and things like that from the settling over 100 years. But it's
step cracking.
Yeah. So it's all about, did the block crack? You go into all detail about that, but I won't bore you with that.
Yeah. Taking a little extra time at the house when you're at a showing and looking beyond how much do you like it versus not like it. If you do like it, what is that condition? Just some of it. I get some agents that give me crap, like, well, why are you doing this stuff that's like inspection stuff? It's like, well, we can find those big ticket issues that are going to be no-go items right out of the gate. It just saves my client $400, $500, $600 on a home inspection. Yes, you want to get a home inspection when you move forward with an offer, but just figuring out a few of those things. And honestly, something like the moisture meter or electrical stuff, if I know that ahead of time, I can use that as leverage in negotiation, because maybe the other offers or other interested parties don't know about that. Okay, so if you find a house, you like the house, it checks out, you want to make an offer on it. At the end of the day, and this is really important, this is probably the next most important thing after the 1, getting the right pre-approval, 2, doing the buyer priority checklist, is an offer is just an offer. It's not your commitment to buy and close tomorrow. There's a lot of due diligence steps that take place from the time you make the offer till we actually solidify and continue towards closing. And the biggest thing a lot of people forget about is you make an offer, the seller still has to accept your offer. There's never a guarantee of that. And you can't get your foot in the door unless you make that initial step. So how do you know when the time is right? You're going to walk into a house and you're going to know, it's going to feel like the right house. For most buyers, it happens relatively quickly. If you're 85% of the way there, you're ready. Now, there's a couple things that we want to do. We want to do an analysis on the house, the neighborhood, in comparison to other homes in the neighborhood of similar style, size, and condition to figure out what is this home truly worth. I also run a couple automated appraisals as well to figure out, again, what's this home really worth in today's market. So we want to do that market analysis. So 85% of the way there, it's time to make that offer. You won't get to 100% confident until you do your due diligence. And what is that? It's once you know you have the property locked down, maybe going back for that second showing, maybe going and seeing some other homes in the neighborhood, figuring out, is this really the right house for you? And finally doing your home inspection and seeing really what that home is all about, besides what we may have seen in that kind of initial walkthrough. We'll spend 15 minutes, half hour at a house. The home inspector is spending 4 hours there, or should be. Remember, that inspection contingency timeline, that is your due diligence timeline. Use it to your advantage. Go out, make yourself get to that other 15%. If you're not there, you can withdraw your offer during that period of time and get your earnest money back. You are not out any money unless you go forward with the home inspection, pay for that piece. But that's why I say do some of that other due diligence first. Earnest money. This is something that's part of the offer. This is your initial kind of upfront kind of down payment on your down payment. It's kind of like when you go to a car dealership. Again, I love the car analogies. You go to the car dealership, it's like, here's $100, hold this car for me. That's what earnest money is. Hey, here's $2,000. I want you to understand I'm serious about buying this house. We're going to put this into a trust account, hold this house for us for the next 30 days until we close. That money, though, goes towards your down payment. That money, again, is fully refundable during that inspection period. And in many cases, it's refundable for circumstances within the financing contingency as well. All right. Yeah, the differences on that depends on what you're voting for your what type of financing you're doing and the different things on the commitment letter and whatnot. But your loan officer can get into that in more detail. Okay, in multiple offers, this kind of happens in a couple different circumstances. One, it was underpriced unintentionally, and the agent thought they were pricing it correctly for the market, and boom, a lot of offers came in. Or it was intentionally underpriced as a bidding strategy. However, none of this says that list price is an accurate reflection of value. That is never the case. If list price is an accurate reflection of value, you would never see a price drop on a house. You would never see houses go into multiple offers. You would never see appraisals come in above list price or below list price if list price was truly what value is. In the offer making and home shopping, that's one of the first things you need to kind of take and go, okay, each house I need to evaluate and look at and talk through with my realtor. You see a house that's been on the market for 30 days at the same price, guess what? It's not selling for list price. Or it's not selling at all because the seller is unwilling to accept what reality is. And on the flip side of that, you know, you can underprice a house and it will go drastically more. But if you're getting it at a good price for you, that's what is important. So what you want to do if you do end up in multiple offers is, one, understand that it's not a bidding war. It's not up. I mentioned earlier that, you know, some buyers that were buying this summer, you know, the prices go up and up and up. Not because it's a bidding war, it's because they're letting it be a bidding war in their head. If they came in with the strategy of figuring out two things: what's the home truly worth by doing the market analysis, and then figuring out what's the home truly worth to you, and submitting that as your bid, and that's what it is. It's a one-shot deal. That's not a bidding war for you. It's here's where I'm willing to go with this. And if you do it that way, you're going to feel a lot more confident in your offers and how it pans out, because you know you're doing what is comfortable for you. Also, don't let "we should have" happen to you. If you love a house and you know it's within fair value range and you're trying to save $500, and then to find out the next day that the home sold to somebody else, and you're sitting there going, oh man, we should have gone up $1,000. You don't have that opportunity. Really put your best foot forward of where you're truly comfortable with going. We're not saying to make yourself house poor, but trust yourself. That's a huge piece of this process. Trusting what you really want. And that's one of the goals with this class, is hopefully give you some ideas how to find what it is you really, really, really want in a home. Not just some of the surface level, well, I want to be under this price point and I want this many bedrooms. There's a lot more to it. Is this going to become a house, or is this going to become really our home that we like and want to be in? And so trusting yourself, listening to yourself, not worrying about seeing a ton of homes online and always trying to find another house to go look at because something's not matching your priority checklist. That's how you go, that you can veer off and end up on that shotgun approach. If you trust yourself and you're patient, you're not in a rush, you're truly going to be set up for success. Okay, there are some great ways in multiple offers that you can set yourself up to win without being the highest offer. And that's utilizing things like escalation clauses, inspection guarantees. And by no means does that mean waiving an inspection. It's just using a certain language that can give a comfort level to a seller that you probably were feeling that way anyway. And we have some of that language in the book that we're going to send out that can give yourself that position to leverage. Also, closing date, possession date, flexibility can be extremely helpful as well in negotiation. Hey, we'll close when you want, sellers. Hey, if you need 2 days extra so you can close and then close in your other place and get moved, we can accommodate that. When you show those kind of things, people look at your offer and they start to feel a lot more comfortable. And again, you can win by being a lower price. Okay, the home inspection. This is really important. A home inspection it's going to be the guide to your maintenance that you're going to want to do on that house for the next few years. Did I lose feed again? Click here. Nope, start video. There we go. All right, we're back on video. I can actually now see there's a light that goes off up here.
I saw that.
Yes. Okay. So home inspection, is it optional? Yes, technically it is. But there's a reason the government has a form that says for your protection, get a home inspection that you have to sign on every offer. It's not a smart idea to waive a home inspection. Who is a qualified home inspector? Well, it's usually not a relative who happens to be a contractor or handyman, sorry there, Ben, or somebody who's built and rehabbed houses. I'm not a home inspector. A home inspector is out there that does a few hundred of these a year. They're in there for 4 hours. They have a checklist of tons of things that they're going through, making notes, telling you what to look out for and how to handle different situations, what the level of concern is on it. And by the way, there are no licensing requirements that are required to become a home inspector. And you got to be aware of this because there are a lot of crappy home inspectors and there are a lot of really good home inspectors. And they charge basically the same thing. So knowing who is and isn't, and we have lists that we typically will give as recommended people to talk to regarding home inspections as to the ones that we use for our personal purchases when we're out there. But for example, I just showed this book with lots of pictures and comments. I have another home inspection that actually costs more. This was a friend or a hookup on a home inspection. Cost him more money. Check boxes with pencil marks in there. Just, I mean, it's a few pages long, but it's not 30 pages long.
A car checklist, like, oh yeah, fluids are good.
Yeah,
check,
it's
check,
good.
check.
Good. Yeah. It's like being a Valvoline or something. Exactly. Same thing. Not nearly the quality level of this, and this was less money. So, one, get a home inspection from a good home inspector. And yeah, a professional home inspector. Okay. Now, if you inspection, you make it through that. And by the way, on home inspections, you really want to focus on what are life safety items. Sorry, I'm going to use a car analogy again. If you go out to buy a 1968 Mustang, at that time, it wasn't code to have airbags or shoulder harnesses or fuel injection. Does that mean that car at the time it was built was an unsafe car? Well, some people may look at it that way, but it was built to the standard of that time and it passed at that time. Houses are the same way. I build a new house today, and 1 year that house will not be to current code. Code is meant for the time. So you will hear inspectors use this word code. It's not meant to scare you. It's meant to educate you as to, okay, it doesn't meet today's code, but it did meet yesterday's code. Maybe. They will flag and will say it's a hazardous item if it is. And those are the things that we typically will ask for. You're not going to buy that 68 Mustang again and say, hey, put that fuel injector in there and throw airbags in on it too. And then I'll take the car, right? 1950s house. isn't going to come with, guaranteed to have vent fans in the bathroom and thick insulation levels and stuff like that. Does that mean that it's a hazardous house? No, it's not a hazardous house. But if we have backdrafting flue gas from the hot water heater, or if we have foundation problems, roof problems, now we have real issues we need to look and address. Okay, so you've made it through inspection. Can on the next slide. Is it just being slow? There we go. All right. So your inspection is complete. Now it's time to say bye to your realtor for a little while. You're still going to talk, but a lot now goes into your loan officers and your title company's hands. And they're going to kind of manage the transaction, keeping things organized, setting up that closing time, getting you the information that you need to know for closing. What's going to happen during this period of time? The appraisal is going to get done. What's important to know about appraisal, and I just ran into a situation like this, is appraisal is not an accurate reflection of value. It's risk assessment to the bank. And if a bank knows that they don't have much risk because of a large down payment, it's possible. I've seen appraisals come in on the low side with big down payments because it doesn't matter. It makes no difference. It also, appraisals, I'll get them back and they'll be 25 grand more than the price that it's sold for. Doesn't mean your sale price automatically goes up by 25 grand, right? So it's how much is the bank willing to risk based upon the situation that they're seeing there. If a house is in multiple offers, it's important to know that the value that they came to, it was pretty well justified when lots of people are making offers on that house, that is the market value. Because if a low appraisal happened, you may walk away, but that next buyer is just going to walk right in, get another appraisal, and maybe that appraisal comes in high for their situation. So it's just really important to understand appraisal value is not market value. Okay, common requests. We talked about them asking for bank statements and maybe credit card payoffs if you're doing that, or taxes and all of that stuff, different pieces. That's normal. It's kind of like going to the dentist. They're going to be pulling some teeth, asking you for a lot of things. But keep in mind, they're about to lend hundreds of thousands of dollars to you. They're going to do their due diligence. Not only are they going to do that, they're required to do their due diligence by rules set by the federal government and what was came up with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac all back in 2008, 2009. So, the best thing that you can do is get those things to your loan officer when they ask for them, and quickly, because getting to that closing date's a goal. It's not a hard fast, and it's going to happen no matter what. If you're not getting the information they're requesting to your loan officer quickly, you could delay closing. Delayed closings can cost you money. You don't want that. You also don't want to make big purchases on credit cards. You do not want to open new lines of credit without talking to your loan officer first during this period of time. You do not want to make large deposits, especially cash. You don't necessarily want to pay off credit cards. Don't go buy a boat, lots of furniture or new cars. Yeah,
you want finances on ice for a little bit.
Credit neutral during that closing timeline. Coast. I'll let you be the main.
Yeah. So next slide. So obviously, so you got to closing day. Congratulations, you got your new home. You've just invested a lot of money into it, and at the end of the day, this is an investment that you have to maintain its value. So it's super important to reach out when you need to do those maintenance items. Check if you're a DIY kind of guy or gal, you can there's a lot of great information to how to maintain things.
YouTube,
different forums, troubleshooting, simple things like changing your air filter on your furnace. Other things in the home, cleaning out the gutters that can just maintain, and prevent problems. That's one of the biggest things, is just preventing problems is half the battle.
Yeah, if you're not a fan of paying money to have your house maintained by somebody else or unwilling to take on the tasks yourself, you're a perfect candidate for a townhouse or a condo because they'll do a lot of the stuff exterior wise for you. But if you are buying a single family home, it's really important to do that stuff because you want your value of your house to go up, and keeping that up and maintaining it, that will allow that to happen. We have a link down below where it's a thisoldhouse.com annual maintenance list of things to look at.
Yeah, and you can definitely, there's seasonality, there's the spring list and the fall list, and you're going to want to get used to caulking and spackle and paint, and because you're going to want to put your own touch on things and maintain it as you wish.
Talking about YouTube, Facebook, if you haven't liked or subscribed, liked our Facebook page already, please do so. We post our Market Monday videos on there every week. Hopefully you'll find that information valuable. As well, I mentioned at the beginning, our YouTube channel, where if you found some of this information helpful, maybe if it's just a little piece and you want to dive in more, we have over 120 videos, I think, on there now on our YouTube channel of great information. As we mentioned, we also have a podcast that we do also. If you ever have questions, please feel free to reach out. We're going to send you, when we send you the links, our contact information. We're happy to help answer those questions. I've had people that said, hey, Kirk, we're working with somebody else, but we found your class helpful. Can you help answer this question? I'm always happy to do that no matter what. I just like helping people through this process. However, if you do not have an agent and you're looking for somebody to talk to interview, to see if they're a good fit, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd like to help if you don't have somebody already. Again, if you haven't filled out that sheet that I mentioned a few times, please do so, so we can get you the appropriate search tools, get you access to the different apps, all the different links that we've talked about, from the Minneapolis Association to MN Compass, the crime stuff, just the different researching sites. A really good home searching tool that has the most information on it. The same app that we use as realtors, as well as we can't send you the book and the gift bag full of lots of good things.
Good stuff in there.
Yeah. So, yeah, put that down.
Yeah, thanks again for joining us. It was a pleasure virtually.
Yeah, and if you know anybody else that might find this helpful, please recommend these classes to a friend.